Shit, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's a little bit of hype for you guys right there. Massive have been doing no build-up whatsoever for the launch of Underground on PS4, so I just wanted to drop that trailer one more time. It is a damn good trailer, and it does build a little bit of excitement for what is actually a really solid expansion that I hope you guys are looking forward to. The long wait is finally over. PS4 players will now have access to the Underground, which I am super thankful about. It's great to have our community finally united again, and in this guide, I wanted to give you an overview of the main things that you need to know before you step into the Underground so you can get the most out of it. So first of all, to unlock the Underground, there is a quest that you will be asked to complete. Just go to your map, select it, do it. It's a very, very cool quest. Probably one of the, mission I should say, one of the best that you'll find. Awesome aesthetic, so just knock that one over and then you'll get access to the Underground. You'll go downstairs in the terminal, down the elevator, and you'll arrive, and here you are. This is your new home for the Underground expansion. On the right-hand side, you'll see a vendor here. He sells stuff, but you do need to have ranks in order to be able to buy it. But to be honest with you, most of the stuff, once you have enough rank to buy it, you're probably going to be geared enough that you don't need it. So it's a little bit disappointing. On the left-hand side, you'll see a stash, which you can use to sort of chop and change your gear back and forward. And in the middle is the table that allows you to set up your operations, which we're going to go through in some detail now. So the way this works is that you are setting things like the difficulty, the number of phases, and the directives that you are running for the Underground. So first of all, difficulty unlocks over time based upon your ranks. So you'll start with normal and hard, and then you'll eventually get challenging and heroic. I'd really strongly recommend running hard mode as much as possible if getting rank is your objective. It's way more efficient than running challenge mode because challenge mode can still be quite tricky, and the loot there is still only 240. It's not worth it if you are looking to gear up to the maximum gear score level. So basically skip challenge mode, just spam hard modes really hard, and then aim to unlock heroic ASAP, which unlocks at rank 20. One quick way of increasing your XP gain is by running multiple phases. So phases are essentially consecutive runs of the Underground. So on one phase, I do one boss. It takes me about 15 minutes. I come back to base. On two phase, I do two bosses. It takes me 35 minutes or so. Three phases, 45 minutes or so, three bosses, etc. So the more I do this, the more XP reward I get, but obviously the risk also increases, because if I die at the end of a 45-minute three-phase run, I get 0 XP for that. I completely wasted my time. So do balance that risk-reward factor when you're deciding how many phases you are going to run. Next up, we have the directives. Directives are essentially variables or modifiers that make the mission more difficult. I'd recommend putting on 4 out of 5 of these. I'm going to go through them more quickly now. First of all, Fog of War, you really won't even notice this. It just disables your minimap. You'll learn to live without this very quickly, so don't hesitate to put that on ASAP. Next up, we have Mad Skills. Now, this is the one that I would actually recommend avoiding. This one significantly decreases your team's overall power because it actually puts both of your skills on cooldown when you use one skill. And the impact of that is that essentially your team is running with like 4 skills as opposed to 8, which makes things much riskier and requires a lot more coordination across your team to make sure that everyone is bringing buffs. So for instance, on matchmaking, it's almost impossible to get your team members to change their buffs because, I don't know, people don't read chat or they just don't want to cooperate or whatever. It really sucks. So essentially, yeah, don't run Mad Skills is my advice to you. It's just going to slow you down too much. Waste Not, Want Not is one that actually burns your ammo when you reload if you've got bullets left, and it also means that enemies don't drop ammo. I'd really recommend running this because you can actually just bring an ammo cache with you to negate this. Makes it really, really easy. Special Ops is the next one. No problem with this one at all. Essentially, the cleaners are going to continue to use incendiary bullets, but you actually won't encounter any cleaners at all. If you are running on heroic mode, you will only encounter LMB, and they use disruptive rounds, which essentially stop you from using an ability for about 10 seconds. Not a big deal. All you need to do is sit in cover and wait for that to wear off, and then you're totally fine. Overall, Special Ops ammo really isn't going to mess you up. I'd absolutely recommend putting that on every time. And finally, we have the last one, Sickness, which basically constantly damages you, but the damage that you receive is so small, and things like Smart Cover and Ammo Cache completely mitigate that. You can basically ignore this completely. You won't even notice this is on. So my advice to you is run 4 out of 5 directives on heroic difficulty with 3 phases if you're in a very, very strong group, and you're going to get tons of XP and tons of loot. The benefit of running more directives is that you do get more items, you get more gear sets, you get more weapons, the more that you're running, so it's definitely worthwhile doing that. When you step into the underground, you're going to find it's a pretty simple affair so long as you're set up correctly. If anyone is struggling with difficulty in the Division, I really strongly recommend checking out my video, 6 tips to make PvE content really easy. It's a clickbaity title, but there's nothing clickbaity about the content. It literally is a guide to making everything super simple by stacking things like smart cover and pulse. And so I really recommend checking out that if you haven't. Bring a stacked electronics build with you, run the Reclaimer gear set if you can unlock it over time, and you're going to find that most, or in fact all PvE content in the game becomes super simple using this build. But yeah, regardless, either way, in the underground there's a few different mission variants, but they all kind of feel the same. It's basically just progress through, kill the things relatively quickly, track down the targets and kill them, but it's basically just about staying behind cover, keeping smart cover up, keeping pulse up, keeping a group healed and ammoed up with ammo cache, and just going through it. You know, that's really it. Now, as you level up, you are going to gain these awesome things called underground caches, and in them they have presents. Now, these are almost always weapons. I think there's about a 60% chance for them to be a weapon, 40% chance for them to be a gear set item. The level of those items actually scales with your current gear score. So my advice to you is if you are gearing up, I would actually hold on to your caches until you hit above around 240 gear score, because that's the point at which everything that you open is going to be 268 gear score, right? So that's the fastest way for you to get high level weapons and gear sets by doing that. And also, you know, if you're using another gear set like an Old Century's Call, I'd recommend putting on a new Blind or Firecrest stuff to jack your gear score before you open those chests to increase the chances that you are going to be over that threshold and you're going to get better quality items. So one little tip that I'd have for you is that you can actually do this on alt characters to get lots of gear really quickly. The first 10 or so levels of the underground, you're going to get them really fast, right? You're going to get lots of caches, and if you run those on 3 different characters, you're going to get 30 caches in like one night. Like, it's really, really fast. So I'd recommend doing that just to be swimming in loot on that first little bit, and then after that you need to sort of grind up slowly to to unlock the more difficult underground content through the directives and the multi-phase operations. So in terms of the rewards that you can expect, it's probably a good time for us to talk about the gear sets. So you are, from enemies, you are almost always going to get one of 2 gear sets. You're going to get Firecrest or Blind. Now, are these gear sets good? Absolutely not. Blind is, I haven't done a review on it yet, but I'm willing to call it probably the most useless gear set in the game, even worse than Nomad, and that's a huge call, I know, but honestly I think it's true. It's just really, really terrible. Don't use it. The only thing it's good for is jacking your gear score so that you maybe don't get kicked out of match-made groups when you drop in, and then you can change to a real gear set after the mission has begun. There's also the Firecrest gear set, which is actually quite decent for its 3-piece, which gives you 100% reload speed, which is actually quite strong, but the overall gear set in terms of its 4-piece is not strong at all, and I would never recommend using it because it's just very, very badly tuned. It brings almost no additional damage, and the duration of the incendiary CC effect is way too short. So not good gear sets. Definitely do not recommend them. Other than that, you're going to get from directive rewards. So like at the end of a mission, depending on the number of directives that you run, you're also going to get a chance at old gear sets like Sentries and Strikers and Predators and Tacticians and all the ones that we still want. So that's why running those directives are really important. They're your chance at getting loot that you actually do want. Now, in terms of the other gear sets that you're going to get access to in this expansion, you're also going to get the Reclaimers gear set, which I would call the best matchmaking gear set. Stack electronics on this thing, use the explosive rounds for the stagger effect that it provides, and you can literally hard carry groups through content like match-made groups or your own group of friends, whatever. Makes the game really, really simple. So fantastic gear set. You get that from the Dragon's Nest incursion more than anywhere else, and also just by generally playing, there's a chance that you get it anywhere. The other gear set is the Deadeye gear set. Now, I've done a PvE review of that, which I'll link in the description below. It is terrible in PvE, but in PvP, it is absolutely God mode due to the fact that the 20% buff that was recently applied to PvP damage means that this thing is able to chunk people for up to 30k damage per bullet on a fully armor capped target if you set yourself up correctly. So it's very, very strong, and I'd really recommend getting it if you are planning on hitting the DZ in a big way. On the new weapons that are available in the underground, now you guys would have already got access to these new weapons like the PP19, the SVD marksman rifle, the G36, and the X45 pistol. However, you're going to get a lot more of them now because of the fact that the underground is just a good place to get loot, and the underground caches will more often than not be dropping weapons. So, you know, are these weapons any good? Actually, yes, they're very good. I've got reviews for the PP19 and the SVD in the description below. PP19 is by far and away the best PvE SMG, really fantastic. The SVD is actually better than the M1A marksman rifle under certain conditions. It's complex, and I'd really recommend checking out the video in the description below to understand what those conditions are, but it's a very, very stand-up rifle that I'd really strongly recommend using. The G36 is the best assault rifle in the game at the moment. My review on that is coming soon. And the X45 pistol is just like crazy overpowered. I don't understand why this thing exists, as in overpowered compared to other pistols. You know, it's like twice the damage of other pistols or something nuts. It's actually more damage than a lot of other primary weapons. It's just crazy. So yeah, you'll pretty much only be using an X45 going forward, which, you know, is weird, but it's cool. You're going to get plenty of them, so enjoy that. The last thing that you're going to get access to is the Dragon's Nest incursion. You'll see that on your map there. You select it, you start it up. It's not easy. It's certainly, if you're starting out, you're going to find it a little bit tricky, but there's a few important tips that I would recommend. First of all, do bring 2-piece final measure to get 50% exotic damage resilience. You are going to be taking a lot of exotic damage because there's tons of fire in this instance. So make sure that you've got 2-piece final measure. It will make your life a lot easier. Do bring a stacked smart cover and pulse. Obviously, that is generally a requirement for any PvE mission these days. And also, I'd also really strongly recommend bringing your health station with immunizer, because that will actually remove any fire effects from you. It will just basically mean that you can actually sit there tanking fire. If you've got smart cover, 2-piece final measure, and an immunizer station, you can literally just sit in fire and it's probably not going to kill you. Now, on the first 4 enemies, the 4 horsemen, really strongly recommend killing all 4 of those at the same time, as if you don't, you're actually going to get waves of ads after each one of them dies, which makes the encounter much more difficult. So yeah, kill them all at once, bring them all down nice and low, and then just kind of execute them quickly. If you can coordinate that with your group, very, very helpful. And on the last boss, it really just is about, as I said, having smart cover, immunizer down, and tanking through that fire. Hit those 2 buttons on the sides, which you'll find these buttons. Hit them at the same time to move the crane above forward, and eventually you will drop the tank onto the fire engine, and you'll be done. But look, as I said, it's not easy. It'll take a bit of practice to get the hang of it. But with the right group, with smart cover, and with immunizer, and with everyone wearing 2-piece final measure, you really shouldn't struggle with it on heroic difficulty that much at all. And that's it, guys. That's the expansion. Yeah, in terms of like taking a step back and looking at it as a whole, I think it's okay. I really enjoy doing the underground. I just think that the rewards are not worth it because the Firecrest and Blind gear sets are so disappointing that it just feels really demoralizing to be receiving so many of them. The weapons are really nice, but you'll very quickly get yourself a good good set of the new weapons, considering that you can actually recalibrate all your weapons these days, which makes life really easy. So you're very quickly going to get what you need from the underground. And then after that, you're really probably going to be looking at going back to, say, Falcon Lost on heroic difficulty, because that's still the very best place to get the gear that you actually want. Even though you do get sentries and strikers, etc., from the underground now, from directives, it's still only a smaller chance to drop than you've got this huge pool of options. I think there's 13 gear sets in total, and any of them can drop from that. Whereas with Falcon Lost, it's definitely going to be one of the 4 original gear sets: strikers, sentry, tacticians, and know, those three are still three of the best gear sets in the game. So yeah, keep that in mind as you progress through this as well. The Underground's a nice little detour, and it's nice just to chill out with your friends, but if you're really serious about min-maxing, then it's definitely still going to be the Dark Zone and Falcon Lost for you, because that's going to be the best source of gear. But otherwise, guys, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed the expansion. I definitely had a lot of fun with it over the last little while, but I'm kind of chilling out a little bit now, getting ready for the sort of hype train to wheel out for patch 1.4 Survival, which I'm sure we'll start hearing about soon. It should likely drop in September time, I'm guessing. Nothing confirmed on that, but that's my hunch. And then I'm sure we'll start seeing some news soon. I'm looking forward to that. Sadly, that will also be another PS4 delay. It'll be to the Xbox and PC communities first, with PS4 a month later. But after that, all of the expansions are going to be at the same time. Then the community will be fully united going forward, which I'm super excited about. I think that's going to be really great, because I do think that these exclusive deals do damage the community and they are not good for the game. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and you found it useful, please do drop it a like, as it helps me out in a big way. Plenty of videos on the way this week, as I've been kind of holding a few back in anticipation for the launch of the Underground. So if you're keen on that, be sure to subscribe. Take good care, guys, and I will see you in the Underground. Take care now. Bye-bye.